Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggle, we has to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It's a great Friday. Thank you everyone for joining us here on Global Morning. I'm Uyag Mofregwe. This is Global Television and we're live in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. And my colleague, one who's very inspiring, by the way, I should say, is also on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, Uy. Thank you for that accolade. I think that's a motivational appeal for me this morning. Well, it's a beautiful Friday. I know a lot of people are getting ready for the party. Some people are not even going to work today because they feel the weekend starts from Friday.
True.
Except for the rest of us who have to be up and doing even weekends, like you are going to be here all through the weekend,
of course,
it has always been. And I think it's so beautiful to have another Friday again. That thing that people always do on Fridays and weekends, try doing it this weekend. You know what I'm talking about.
It's all right, but then again, it doesn't change the fact that a great weekend still begins on a Friday, and I'm sure this is your chance to start yours. So what does it mean? It means that if you worked really hard this week, I'm not saying you had to do what they call kill body work. I mean, if you're really putting your best, you're putting your all, you've been innovative, creative, resourceful, forward-thinking, you've added value in ways that are measurable, then you deserve a great weekend. You deserve to relax, whether you're going to spend that time with your family or you're going to spend it all by yourself. But whatever you do, you've got to have fun. So that when you come back to work on Monday, you're all fresh and pumped for the new week. But for us, the weekend has started, and we're trying to do that by bringing you a 3-hour-long program just to help you have a 360-degree view of many of the things happening in our country and even beyond. These days, it's almost impossible, Ramsey, for you to have a conversation, whether on or off television, without talking about fuel. For example, I realized as I left the house this morning, I mean, whimsically, I just had to discuss fuel issue with somebody. And we're talking about prices of fuel. So he says, this service station sells for these amounts, this one sells for this amount, NNPC sells for that amount, you know, and things like that. Because not only has it become a conversation starter, it has also now found its way into everyday interaction. Because you're buying something from the store, they have a way of talking about how the pump price of fuel has impacted prices. You need to send something to somebody, maybe using one of these courier outlets. They tell you, well, we have done an upward review of our rates, and they also tell you again, it boils down to the price of fuel, you know, and things like that. And we're saying, well, the market has been liberalized. Well, we have structured the market in such a way that market forces will take charge. But I'm not sure that is something that resonates with the everyday Nigerian.
Well, I think what Nigerians are looking forward to is the time where they'll hear that, well, fuel is now selling for like maybe, even if it is 500 naira, Nigerians don't mind right now. Because at a point, some people were saying, let it go back to the 200 naira that it used to be. But then someone will tell you, what's the possibility? And some people will tell you in Nigeria, if the price of a commodity goes up, it hardly comes down.
So gravity doesn't work in that regard.
Gravity doesn't work in that regard.
Right.
That whatever goes up must surely comes down. But then come down. The law of gravity doesn't work there. But then come to think about fuel. There is nothing you do in this country that does not have direct or indirect connection with fuel. If you want to talk about going to school, if you want to talk about food, we want to talk about travels, we want to talk about business, well, anything. it's either you're directly affected or the person you're transacting with is directly affected. And for the fact that whatever it is you want to do, there's a way they calculate this thing into transactions such that whether you are the one directly dealing with fuel or not, you must feel the impact of fuel. Up to the extent that power supply, you know how power supply is in Nigeria, more so that the grids keep collapsing. And a lot of people are resorting to generating plants right now. It's either you need to get fuel or you get diesel. But then people use fuel more because of I Pass My Neighbor, because that one is affordable by a lot of Nigerians, this small generating plant, the small one. So people use fuel to power it so that they can have at least light in their houses, to be able to do little business, to be able to operate a barbing salon, you know, a hairdressing salon. Whatever, anything you want to do in Nigeria right now, fuel have a role to play in it. And that's the reason Nigerians are saying, please, whatever you do, we don't care. You can take as much as you want from the account. Whatever you want to take, you can just take it away. Embezzle, do whatever you want to do, but make the average Nigerians comfortable. That's it. And how can that be done? Basic amenities. Basic amenities. When we say basic amenities, these are things that contribute to human existence. For man to exist comfortably, at least these basic amenities need to be there. What are we talking about? Give us a good health. Let's have life. Let's have good roads that we can at least move our products from one destination to the other. But then the politics, you remember on the program, was it the day before yesterday or so, that the prof was talking about the politics in the petroleum industry. The actors. At a point, some Nigerians feel the authorities don't care about them anymore because you keep hearing NNPC, federal government marketers. These are big stakeholders. These are, should I call them big elephants? And all this fight, who is suffering it? It's the ground that is suffering it. And who is the ground right now? The average Nigerian. All these things that we're saying, a lot of people don't even have the access to hear one or two things that we're saying.
Because in the first place, they don't even have power.
They don't have power. They don't have power. And at the hinterland, this man who calls himself a House of Rep member representing whatever constituency doesn't even care whatever that's going on.
The transformer is installed in front of his house.
In front of his house. And this transformer works only when he travels home. You see what we're talking about? So these things, I think until we begin to work on our conscience, first of all, because someone says something, and I say, well, that's not far from the truth, even though it might not be 100% true. That a lot of people in governance have a very dead conscience. And I was like, oh, dead conscience, meaning they don't even think. The reasoning is just around themselves. What will I gather before my time expires? Okay, and all of that. But one thing is wealth acquired through wickedness, it doesn't last, no matter what. Something may happen along the line.
Because it is devoid of conscience and humanity.
Right. And this little prayer, God bless you. Oh, thank you very much.
It goes a long way.
Goes a long way. Very long way, but a lot of people don't know. And that's where we talk about dead conscience, which is not what Nigerians need right now.
I think these are valid issues that you're raising, obviously, Ramsey, because you look at Nigeria today, for example, you find several reasons to ask yourself, is it not the case that those who say they lead the country for the most part do never understand what the basic needs of the people are? For example, how do you say you are a senator or member of House of Representatives or even a member of a state House of Assembly, and then you sink a borehole, right? And then you ensure that it is maybe a few houses away from yours, or at least it's ultimately on your street, and then what else? you're more interested in crafting your name on the borehole than you are about the sustainability and functionality of the borehole. And then, like somebody once jokingly said a few days ago, you would even pay more money to bring press people to cover it for news, make a news item out of it, one borehole, all right? And then you pay more for that than you actually did sinking or facilitating that borehole, as it were. And then what else? You probably spent, let's say, 5 million installing that borehole, maybe maximum 10 million, and then in your retirement notes, you say it was actually 200 million you spent installing or facilitating a borehole. What's the point here? It is simple. I think one of the challenges we have is that while there's a lot of politics and politicking going on, there's little or no leadership. All right, leadership drives everything. Like they say, I mean, I was a young boy and I started hearing that. Everything rises and falls on leadership, all right? Because there's leadership and then there is exemplary leadership. There's a state where, for example, a former governor there would tell people that, look, allocation has dwindled. We are not getting as much these days from the federal allocation as we used to get. IGR has also plummeted very significantly. So the state is really not in a good place financially. But meanwhile, that same governor is busy the whole time, flying helicopter everywhere, all right, from his state to Abuja, at the snap of fingers and things like that. Now, what's the point here? If a state is not rich, if Nigeria as a country is not rich, like Mr. Bagudu is telling us, we're going to jump right into that shortly, all right, it must be reflected in the way those who lead that entity live. Their lifestyle, their choices, all right, their priorities must be reflective of the true state of the finance of that entity, whether it's a local government, state, or federal government. Very important. It's like a father, for example, saying that, look, I've lost my job, or, well, I took a pay cut recently, maybe 25%, maybe 50% pay cut for whatever reason, all right, which can happen to anybody under whatever circumstances. And then you come home, you share this very, sad news with your family, which, let's say in this case, your spouse and then your children in particular. And they even empathize with you because they understand how much of pressure is going to put you under. Of course, regardless, you have to provide for your family and all of that. But the whole time, they see that your O1 bear is very loud. They see that you're spending more time with the boys. There are pieces of evidence everywhere. Of course, it's 2024, so there's always going to be you leaving some trail, all right, of how you're spending money here, spending money there. From your account, for example, your wife is seeing this, your children are seeing this. In the meantime, however, you're telling your children, look, your tuition will have to wait. You can't pay now. I just do a small note, or send to the school, let them know that they have to give us 2 more weeks, give us a 1-month extension. Your wife can't go to the market as frequently as she used to. She can't get essentials like groceries again because you took a pay cut. But meanwhile, you're always hanging out, you're traveling to do this and to do that. Let's not go into all of those details. But what's the point here? The point is that your lifestyle, your choices do not show to your family that you actually have a financial challenge. That's what we're seeing in Nigeria right now. For example, Minister of Planning, Budget and National Planning, talking about Abubakar Bagudu, former governor of Kebbi State, just told Nigerians yesterday that, look, you have to reprioritize, realign your spending, right? You have to understand that Nigeria is not a rich country. Nigeria is not a wealthy country. You have to make very tough choices with your family at this point. In other words, you have to sit down with your family, let them understand that Nigeria is not a rich country. You see, it's interesting when politicians play this card. All right, we don't have to run through the numbers. Time will for us to do that. But Nigeria is a rich country. We can have that debate on television from an intellectual standpoint. We can start from 1956, from 1958, when oil was discovered in this country. We can talk about the granite pyramids. We can talk about the cocoa. We can talk about the palm oil. Nigeria is a rich country. Otherwise, somebody will have to spend their lifetime explaining to Nigeria what brought the Britons here, what brought the Portuguese here, and why the West still will not extricate itself from the affairs of not just Nigeria, but Africa.
I think what these people do, these statements are coming because they are looking for what to use.
Excuses
to cover their lapses.
Right.
That's what it means. Okay, you're saying Nigeria is not a rich country, but you are living a flamboyant life.
And you're not hiding it.
So where is the resources coming from, if not from Nigeria? See, sometimes when they say these things, you feel, hey, come on. don't talk to Nigerians as if Nigerians are not intelligent at all.
They can't think for
As if
themselves.
they can't think for themselves. These are people that if you go anywhere in the world, you see them occupying very sensitive positions in other countries, doing very well, moving forward with speed, the economy of other nations. But because these people are being taken for granted, you see a lot of them looking for their daily bread outside the shores of the country. How would you say a country like Nigeria is a poor country,
Right.
when other countries are depending on Nigeria for their survival? Okay, what happened to, if not because every attention went to fuel, Nigeria, if we want to concentrate on agriculture, there are even natural resources in this country that, if being given attention, can go a long way.
Right.
But these people, sometimes when they say certain things, I'll like, come on, you don't say this. Because some statements you make, okay, you talked about something just now, where they go about living their flamboyant lives, not forgetting that this is 2024,
Right.
where every footstep is on the internet.
Can be tracked.
Can be tracked. You can track it from point A to point Z, and details will be right there. The handwritings on the wall, whether you use a duster to clean it or not, it is still there. There are some things that can still be used to see those handwritings. So what are we talking about? The life you're living, does it portray that Nigeria is a poor country? That adjective is not even it for me.
Right.
Okay. If you want to, there is no doubt about it that Nigeria is one of the third world countries. We all know that, and this is what we are doing to get out of. But then, the people in authority, like that statement now, leadership by example.
Right.
Leadership should be by example. You cannot be flying private jets everywhere. Thank God that one politician made a statement the other time that he can no longer get diesel also. You remember who I'm talking about, right? So, but then, I think it's high time. It's high time the politicians begin to see Nigerians as very intelligent people. So that some statements, people have made statements in the past that haunt them.
Right.
Yeah, people have made statements. If you remember during the screening, I think there was somebody that went for the ministerial screening that his activities was traced on social media.
Right.
And you know what happened. Every Nigerian can remember.
And then he was explaining without evidence.
Without evidence,
But he still made it through.
Provided you've gotten there, you must take a bow. So taking a bow is just to get there.
I thought he would take 2 bows because of his own peculiar issues.
He took a bow, and this is where we are today.
Right.
But then I think we should also be conscious of the fact that Nigerians are very intelligent people, and of course, remember that the market is a very big place. Throwing stone into the market is very delicate.
Because somebody said your mom might be one of the marketers or somebody who has come to shop.
That's it. And if the stone land on the person's head, you will be the one to spend the money in treating that person.
Very true. But you see, again, it's just a way of saying that we have a long way to go as a country. I think one way to understand what we're dealing with is to also look at other countries that were in the same state as Nigeria some 5 decades ago. Let's say in the 70s, for example. How are they doing today? All right. Look at early 70s, mid 70s, even into early 80s. How are those countries doing today? Look at countries where oil exploration or crude exploration started the same time as Nigeria. How are they doing today? Of course, people will always want to point at the bad examples, but there are good examples we can get inspired by. There are good examples we can learn from. Look at what they've done. There's nothing we want to achieve as a country that other nations or a few other nations somewhere on earth have not also already accomplished. So the question is, what are we learning from them? It's pretty much, Ramsey, like you're in a class, for example, you have a classmate, this is you in university, and their grades are good, all right? The question you ask yourself is, what are they doing to get their grades up? It's simple. Are they reading better? Are they reading longer? Are they more strategic with the way they read? Do they have more texts, like more textbooks? Do they have more supportive parents? Do they have extra lectures, all right, maybe tutorials that they attend? What extra are they doing? Do they have a mentor or a role model somewhere they're following? It's very important. But I think one of the smart ways to understand why Nigeria is where it is today, alongside many other countries in the so-called global south, is to read the book Why Nations Fail. It will give you sort of radical perspective.
But the Nigerians don't read.
Well, we do. I think that's a lie from somewhere. I don't know where it's from. But Nigerians do read. I'll tell you why. Yes, people may not be reading as much as you expect. And that's also understandable, because you can't tell people to read when they are not eating or when they are not getting the basics of life. That would be asking for too much. But then it also means that there's a whole lot that we need to do as a country to fix wherever we are right now. Let's take a quick break, everyone. We're back shortly.
To make sure these things work perfectly the way it is supposed to work. The designated points, how many people will have access to it? We heard a bag of rice was going to be 40,000 naira as we speak up till now. I think just few civil servants, not even the average Nigerians, because they will always say the poorest of the poor got this rice. Now, talking about CNG, how many people will have what it takes, okay, to do this conversion? What are the things that will happen when it's been heated up? For how long? For how many distance can you use this? Is there any cooling system, or the gas will not have any hazard? Because we are looking at the disadvantages alone, but the people should also be meant to know the disadvantages of this CNG, all right? Because the conversion, people, you remember what happened during the fuel scarcity when people were converting their generator.
Right.
Okay. Their generating plants. People were calling just roadside people
to help them do conversion.
Help them do conversion. And they were using just the normal gas. Okay. Because they felt that was affordable. All right. So Nigerians, most times, they look at affordability and not availability. You understand? So these are the things that should be taken into consideration. If this CNG, okay, the usage of this CNG cars is actually for everyone. I think the people who even need this CNG conversion more are the commercial motorists, okay, because they are the ones that render services to Nigerians, and they are the ones that will tell you, well, fuel has gone up, it's no longer 500 naira, it's now 700, it's now 800, depending on where you are going. So these things should be taken into consideration so that we can get this thing right once and for all. CNG conversion, very, very key, very, very important, and more attention should be given to it. And we need more of the designated points everywhere in the country, and it should be made affordable. That is it, because there is nothing you will say now that you won't connect it to the economy.
Right.
Okay, so it should be affordable. That's what Nigerians are looking for. Apart from the availability, we should also consider the affordability too.
All right, Ramsey, that's a great point to make. But then, sad as it is, CNG appears to be an alternative in the mix now, whether I would like it or not.
That's all we need.
All right. Okay, let's go to the big story on the front page of the Vanguard today. FG's reforms not working. Bauchi governor counters World Bank. World Bank has been saying that, look, I mean, recently the bank just says that Nigeria needs to sustain these reforms that got started under this administration of President Bola Tinubu, that we will need to keep them going so that we can drive them to a logical conclusion. But then the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, says no way, that these things are not working. But whether or not he's talking from a place of politics or he has figures and statistics to authenticate, or if you like, substantiate his claim, is a different kettle of fish altogether. But the big story has a couple of writers here, about 5 of them in all. Says people hungry, many lynchers. Reversing reforms will spell doom for Nigeria, World Bank warns. While we must sustain reforms, Edu, CBN doesn't determine FX rates. Cardoso, my fear about reforms. World Bank Vice President Chief Economist, Gil. All right, so find all of those details on page 5 of today's Vanguard newspaper. Hardship fueling voter apathy, political parties warn. Well, you have to eat to be able to go to a polling unit. Gowon and 90, your dedication to Nigeria's unity, progress leaves indelible mark. That's Northern Senators. And then you bring it down further, we have a bunch of headlines here. Jigawa explosion, death toll rises to 168 as survivor recounts ordeal. Of course, NEMA had warned that the toll was likely going to rise from 147. So we're seeing an increase of 21 already, just the morning after. So it's quite a pathetic story that just gets you feeling all emotional. But you can read up details on page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. Flooding relocates from riverbanks. FG warns Nigerians. FG inaugurates panel to tow $112.53 million Abuja, Kefi, Akwanga, Makurdi roads. Sport, Super Eagles Libya saga, CAF fixes date for verdict on investigation. All of those interesting details await you on page 31 if you look up the Vanguard newspaper today. We're going to allow Ramsey now walk us through the Nation newspaper.
Oh, okay. Instead of the Nations, let me quickly run through the Nigerian News Direct.
News Direct, okay.
Yes, Nigerian News Direct. I have above the head. I have 39th convocation. That's the kicker. 256 bag first class as Unilorin graduates 12,042 students. Details read on page 13 of the Nigerian News Direct. Then this one says continued rate hikes insufficient to curb inflation, hindering access to capital. This is coming from LCCI, and the details read on page 2 of the Nigerian News Direct. Nigeria's aviation compliance score hits 75.5%. This is on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct, and we have the picture of the Minister of Aviation right there. I think the aviation industry, so many things happening in the aviation industry, but then I think Nigerians are looking forward to when this thing will at least translate into what they're actually looking forward to. The big story now, the big story says Forex remittance hit $600 million in September. That is coming from Cardoso. Well, I think so many things happening in the Forex sector. Just one rider to that story. The rider says blames previous administration for failing to diversify economy. I'll keep saying this. you are now on board. There's no need blaming the previous. What I feel is anybody, be it a minister, a governor, maybe a House of Rep member, whoever you are, and you come into office, having known what is happening in that office before you even came into the office, and you're shifting blames, instead of hitting the ground running, let the people see what you are doing and not shifting blames. I think that will go down better for Nigerians, because as it is, for you to say, well, blame go to the previous administration for failing to diversify economy. You are here. Let's see the diversification and let's see the result. No matter how minimal this result is, let's get to see what these results are. This is coming from Cardoso. I think Cardoso have been speaking, but then a lot is expected from Cardoso, looking at what is happening to Naira presently. The continuous fall of the Naira has become a very serious situation. I think what Nigerians are looking forward to is when they will hear that, like it was promised,
Right.
$1 is to 1 Naira. Okay, we're still waiting for that period. But you constantly saying, well, the previous administration were supposed to do this and they didn't do it. Do it now. Now you're there. Let's see the results.
Right.
The people will have to pass this judgment to say, well, this is what these people would have done and they brought us to this place. Thank God that this person came into office and we're getting it right. I think the kudos will be more appreciated and the value will be more than you just coming to say, well, the previous administration would have done it this way. Now that you are there, do it. All right. That's from the big story on the Nigerian News Direct. Let's quickly get to other stories right here. This one is on page 13. It says flooding in northern states wasn't cholera outbreak as NCDC issues health alert. This on page 13. This one says fake CNG cylinder responsible for explosion in Benin. Oh my God, Benin of all places. This is coming from NIPCO Gas clarifies. Okay, all right. That clarification is necessary so that Nigerians, like we said earlier, will take precautions because it is not every cylinder. And that's where the orientation is very important.
Right.
You don't just tell Nigerians that, yeah, now fuel is expensive. Let's start using CNG. All right, let's do conversion. There are certain things that they need to know. Enlightenment, very important. Someone has gone to pick just an ordinary cylinder. Maybe you don't even know, maybe a used cylinder.
Right.
Some people don't even know that these cylinders have expiring dates. A lot of people don't know.
Don't know, yes.
Even the one they use, the one they use in the house, the one they use for cooking, the domestic gas, the cylinders, they have expiring date. But a lot of people don't even know. They use it for as long as they can, provided the thing is still taking in the gas, and they can use it to cook, not knowing that these things expire and can bring up the risk of explosion. This person just pick up a cylinder and conversion, pam.
Exactly. Get to the road.
Yeah, get to the road.
And incidentally, you are even a commercial driver, which means at every point in time, you're likely going to have passengers on board. Again, the implication apparently is that you're putting more lives at risk.
More lives at risk. All right. Well, that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Nigerian News Direct this morning, as you will bring us the next point of call.
All right, let's turn to our next paper, everyone, and that happens to be the Nation newspaper. All right, so on the front page of the Nation, let's begin with the big one. It says federal government offers 10 billion naira CAM loan to facilitate CNG conversion. So it's a big conversation, apparently. All right. Then by the side, you have 3 riders. Plan captures credits for alternative energy. 3,000 CNG tricycles begin operation in Lagos. Imo government unveils 5 million cubic feet gas projects. All right. Okay. So What more do we have? Here, it says above the nameplates, a picture of Joe Ajaro there, President of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Labour leaders, federal government meets in continuous engagement. Minimum wage, Lagos fixes 85,000 naira, Delta 77,500 naira. Edo governor-elect raises the alarm over looting of funds assets. Oil magnate sues EFCC for unlawfully declaring him wanted. And then we have here 100 gigawatt tanker explosion victims buried. Tinubu governor's orders mourn horrific tragedy. You can read up all of these stories when you pick up a copy of The Nation today. And finally, we have one here that says, at the very foot of it, Customs seizes 1.1 billion naira illicit drugs. No leadership vacuum, says Presidency. Of course, Bayo Onanuga, the special advisor to the President on information and strategy, was evidently left explaining the absence of his principal, President Bola Tinubu, and his two IC, as we say in the military, talking about Vice President Kashif Shettima. And he says, look, these two gentlemen, these two leaders of the country, are out of Nigeria in pursuance, all right, or if you like, in pursuit of Nigeria's interest. They are out of the country for Nigerian affairs. It's not as if they are going there to eat burger and push it down with a bottle of soda, all right? And then he says there's no vacuum in spite of their physical absence. But I think Nigerians will be the best judge of that. But then that's what we'll leave it. The Daily Trust is our next port of call.
Thank you very much. Let's get to look at the Daily Trust newspaper this morning as we bring you the major headlines. I'm beginning from below the nameplate. This one says are flawed. That's the kicker. A federal government urges Benue, Niger riverine communities to relocate. And this one says our rep speakers assures media trust of partnership on parliament coverage. That's very important. That talks about transparency. Then this one says NIMSI boss gets accolade for improved staff welfare. NIMSI boss gets accolade for improved staff welfare. Details read on page 12. I think this should extend to every other parastatal, not just parastatals, to private sectors and everywhere, because with what is happening right now, I think the take-homes can no longer take the workers home anymore. And I think it's so good that he's getting an accolade today. Everyone, every employer, and of course every agency, the federal government, everyone, even though there is a struggle for the increment of the minimum wage right now because of the diversity in different states. Some states have said, well, we'll pay 70. Some say we are paying 72. Some say we are paying 80. Some say we can't pay at all. What do we do? There's been this back and forth. But then I think this is a good one. Nigerians are looking forward to when their take-home would be able to take them home comfortably. I think my accolade will also have to go to the NIMSI boss, but I don't know how much the improvement is, but at least it's commendable.
Compared to where we're coming from.
Compared to where we're coming from.
I mean, we will spend this entire program discussing NIMC, but like Ramsey said, it's commendable, so let's leave it at that.
Let's just leave it at that. All right, that will take us to the big story on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, where I have this one that says security agents supplying arms to terrorists, bandits coming from NSA. This is worrisome. This is worrisome because in a sane country, you who is supposed to be a security operative, a security agent, someone who is supposed to protect lives and properties as it is being enshrined in the Constitution, then you start taking side with people who are terrorizing your own country. It becomes something very worrisome. I think the federal government, the NSA, and every other security chief will need to swing to action. Let these people be at least made to face the wrath of the law. And I think some persons should actually be meant to face the wrath of the law so that others will know how bad this act is. I don't know, but this is bad for security agents to supply arms. Before now, we're made to know that information's leak. Okay, leakage of information was the problem before now. But now that we are hearing that security agents are supplying arms to bandits, the complaint is, well, if we engage these bandits, they have more sophisticated weapons than we have. Now we're getting to know where these weapons, these arms are coming from. This is worrisome. This is something that should be traced to the latter. And whoever that is concerned should be brought to book to face the full wrath of the law. 3 riders to that story. This one says, weapons used by criminals belong to federal government. Who said so? This needs investigation. I think these revelations are worth it, looking at the security situation of the country. So this is an assignment for the NSA and the federal government, because this is an indictment for you to say the weapons being used by criminals belong to the federal government. So how did it get into the hands of the criminals? Experts want culprit arrested, prosecuted. Just like I said, then the last ride to that story said 2005, 400 obsolete, unserviceable illicit ammunitions destroyed. And that takes us to the next story. The next story, just at the bottom of the paper, the Daily Trust newspaper says, reversing Tinubu's policies will spell doom for Nigeria. What bank? I think we need to talk about this because, I don't know, some persons will tell you, are you sure somebody is not interested in something or someone is not getting rich because of the dwindling nature of Nigeria's economy? These are questions we should be asking, because the situation of the economy is giving some people, some countries' currency more value than it has been. That's one. That's just one aspect of it. Then talk about international transactions and every other thing that's involved. But then I think the experts will have more to say about this. But then reversing Tinubu's policy will spell doom for Nigeria, and a lot of people have frowned at this. This statement that the policy should be sustained for the next 10 to 15 years, then what are the apparatus, the strategies that will make the effect of these policies not to tell too much, not to spell on favorable conditions for Nigerians? That's what it is. Okay, the policies, if you say it's good, then we should also have some things that will make these policies not to eat too deep, or the pronouncement of the effect of the policy should not be hardship everywhere, complaint here, here and there.
So you're saying must it come with hardship?
That's it.
Can we not reform with minimal hardship?
Because, the policy is for the people. And
it doesn't have to break their back and strangle them.
That's it. Because as it is, people are losing their lives, because of some policies that have been made in the past. Then, if the leads are not there, what would the leaders do? You will not have anybody to lead. Your leadership position, your political ambition will not see the light of day if the people that you are meant to lead are not there anymore. These are some of the things we should be taking into consideration before some policies are being made. We're not saying these policies are not good, but then the timeliness, then the effect of the policy, what have been put in place to cushion the effect of these policies, which are very robust on paper. So these are some of the things we are talking about. Then I think just to write us to that story, and I will be done with the Nigerian News Direct. This one says, there are no walking, we risk lynching. This is Bala Mohammed talking right here. We will sustain reform for long-term gains. Edom is the one saying that, and that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
All right, so let's quickly turn over to another paper now. This will be the Punch newspaper for you. We begin with the headlines above the nameplates. This one has a picture of President Bola Tinubu. It says OPS carpet Tinubu reforms. CSO demand cabinet shake-up. Some people also argue to say that will not solve the problems of Nigeria, but at least let's have the right hands. Maybe it's a great place to start from. Tanker explosion. FG promises to rebuild razed Jigar town. NIMC boss gets accolades over improved staff welfare. We also need to extend that to machinery and other critical infrastructure required to carry out enrollment and processing of identity cards. Rivers offers 100 scholarships as Wigwe Varsity takes off. Last we checked, I think the most affordable, I don't want to say cheapest, of the courses there was $10,000. That was before inflation became a big deal. So if you're giving 100 scholarships, that's a whole lot of money for a minimum of 4-year course, I'm sure. So if you have things like law and medicine amongst these scholarships, this will be running into billions, at least a couple of billions at the end of the day. But nothing beats quality education. You can't take that away. It's not just about people going to school, but what's the quality of the learning? What's the environment like? These are factors we can't take away. There's a reason parents fall over themselves, scratch their skin, stay up all night to send their children to good schools, whether back at home or overseas. But again, these are just apt reminders, no matter how we try to pretend, that we need to work on our education system in this country. Skyrocketing inflation, Nigerians lament hunger. World Bank says 129 million trapped in poverty. Operative word, trapped. All right. What's the writer saying? It says commodities price jump 45.92%, and that Tinubu as small business owners lament downturn. A government orders discos to replace phased out meters. Cholera has killed 378. Cases rise to 14,237. That's according to the NCDC, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention. I think this is this point where we turn to another paper for you. I guess that would be the Daily Times.
Yes.
Now.
Before the Daily Times, I think we need to make way for the AM news, which is coming up at 8 a.m. I think while you were taking those papers,
right,
so many of the headlines caught my fancy. But then, well, just pick a copy of,
read it for
of the
yourself.
Punch newspaper,
Right,
and see how punchy it is.
You know, our people say you can't eat up an entire bag of salt. All right, that's what it is with the papers. So we just bring you the headlines as they come, and then you can look up details for yourself and also use that opportunity to see other headlines. Top of the hour, like Ramsey already noted, it'll be time for the global AMEs, and afterwards we'll put our discussion on the road. Stay with us, everyone. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Global AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Uyi Agumofwebe. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nigecomsat. Chairman of Nigerian Sing Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, says the 2024 Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit will be graced by President Bola Tinubu and renowned business magnate Aliko Dangote. Dabiri Erewa, who spoke during the press conference in Abuja, stated that the summit, scheduled for November 5 to 7, 2024, in the Federal Capital Territory, is expected to attract over 2,000 participants, both in person and virtually. She noted that the event underscores the significance of diaspora investments in Nigeria's economic growth. The Northern Elders Progressive Group has commended President Bola Tinubu's bold approach to tackling insecurity in the northern region, praising what it called his Fanson Yama strategy for yielding significant positive results. Chairman of the Arewa Elders Progressive Group in the Northwest, Mustafa Ma, applauded the president's decision to take the fight to the bandits' hideouts, describing it as a major achievement in the quest for peace and security. The Northern Elders said President Tinubu's aggressive approach, which involves using military force to crush bandits without mercy, has shown promising results. The Association of Chairmen of Local Government Service Commissions in Nigeria has stressed the need to address security and contemporary challenges at the local government level. The association made the plea at its 3-day annual conference summit held in Abuja. Jumai Manson has more on the story.
His citation.
The theme of this year's summit is addressing security and other contemporary challenges at the local government areas in Nigeria. The summit brought together key stakeholders to deliberate on local level security issues and explore innovative solutions. Presented an award for effective service to the Executive Secretary of TETFund, Sonny Echonu. The chairman of the association, Senator Kaka Rijau, praised Echonu for his dedication and open-door leadership style, describing him as a leader loyal to nation building.
Most of the private secondary schools and universities you see projects is from the TETFund. Honestly, congratulations. I want to thank you, and I want to urge you to do more for what you have started doing. And I believe this award will go far, and also giving you the strength so that you can perform better.
The Executive Secretary of TETFund, Sonny Echonu, expressed gratitude to the association, emphasizing that TETFund's interventions cover not only federal and state institutions, but also include support for local governments. He further expressed his enthusiasm for the autonomy given to local government areas, urging them to contribute at the upcoming National Research Fair.
TETFund is there and ready to continue to provide needed support for the development of a tertiary education sector in our country. We are very confident that now that you will be in charge of your resources, we will begin to see local governments also invest in tertiary education.
Stakeholders at the summit reiterated the importance of collaborative efforts in tackling the security challenges faced by local communities. For Global Television, Jumai Manson reporting.
The Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TETFund, Architect Sonny Echonu, has called on local government areas to make strategic investments in tertiary education. Echonu stated this after receiving an award of excellence at a 3-day annual summit organized by the Association of Chairmen of Local Government Service Commissions in Nigeria. The Executive Secretary thanked President Bola Tinubu for restoring autonomy to local governments and reaffirmed that TETFund will continue to support tertiary education in the country. President Bola Tinubu has joined the people and chiefs of Ile-Ife and the global Yoruba community in commemorating the 50th birthday of the Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Enito Ogunwusi, the Ojaja II. Tinubu conveyed his birthday message through a statement signed by his special advisor on media and publicity, Bayo Onanuga, noting that the Ooni's extraordinary leadership and maturity since ascending the throne at 41. He emphasized his significant role in preserving the rich traditions of the Yoruba people in the ancient city known as the Source. The House of Representatives has urged the federal government to increase the yearly budgetary allocation to the Bureau of Public Procurement to enable it effectively discharge its constitutional mandate. The resolution of the House was a sequel to the adoption of a motion at Thursday's plenary on the need to review the budgetary allocation for the Bureau of Public Procurement, moved by the member representing Okanofon or Rukanam Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State. A compressed natural gas-powered vehicle explosion in Benin City, Edo State has left 3 people severely injured, including a motorist who suffered eye injuries. The explosion was reportedly traced to a cylinder that had been fabricated by a welder without proper approval. The welder has reportedly turned himself in to the police. The incident occurred while vehicles were queuing to refill their cylinders at the station. The vehicle being attended to suddenly exploded. A mass burial has been held for over 147 victims of a petrol tanker explosion at Majia town in Taura local government area of Jigawa State. Taura local government area chairman Hambali Zerga said the figure only accounted for bodies buried in one mass grave, noting that the dozens of victims were burnt beyond recognition. The Nigerian Medical Association has appealed to doctors to rush to emergency rooms to help with the influx of patients. The presidency says the absence of President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashif Shettima in the country does not create any leadership vacuum. Special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, says the 2 leaders are fully engaged with the nation's affairs even while they are away. The National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, has knocked policemen and soldiers stealing arms and ammunition from their formation to criminal elements. Ribadu disclosed this in Abuja during the destruction of arms by the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons. The NSA says security agents involved in the act are worse human beings, adding that efforts must be put in place to check such elements. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, says the police force will continue to uphold its former chief's legacies to enhance its operations. The police chief made this known at a strategic meeting with former Inspectors General of Police in Abuja. Here is Kekalomo Okeri's report.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, says the aim of the meeting is to facilitate a meaningful dialogue for the purpose of fortifying the foundation for effective policing in Nigeria. He pointed out that the current leadership of the force is building on the strong foundation laid by the former police chiefs to, among others, meet modern-day security demands.
All of you contributed immensely to the growth and development of the Nigerian police force. And I want to assure you that we are building on the foundations that you laid.
Speaking on behalf of the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Abubakar emphasized the need for experienced experts within the Nigerian police force to effectively address the current security challenges bedeviling the country. He reaffirmed their commitment to support the Nigerian police force in all capacity while offering collective experience and wisdom to help navigate the trying times.
The Inspector General of Police to rub minds on the issues of policy and security and strategy in this country. And we shall continue to do this because we are police and police is us, just like you are. You know the challenging situation in this country, and therefore the Inspector General of Police and all of you need experience, expertise, and the technical know-how to be able to discharge your responsibilities of protection of life and property.
The meeting underscores the importance of continuity and mentorship as past IGPs seize the opportunity to address and share their experiences with the members of the force management team and other senior officers of the Nigerian Police Force. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Well, thank you so very much, Kike Lomo. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced that the 2025 Anambra State governorship election will be held on Saturday, November 8, 2025. The Commission's chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, made the announcement during a consultative meeting with political parties in Abuja. Yakubu noted that the formal notice for the election will be published on November 13, 2024, in line with the requirements of the Electoral Act 2022, which mandates that notice for any election be issued no later than 360 days before the election date. A rift is believed to have emerged within the Kwankwasia political movement as a faction advocates for the political independence of Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf from his mentor, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso. The group, allegedly sponsored by Secretary to the state's government, Abdullahi Bichi, argues that significant development in Kano State requires the governor to free himself from Kwankwaso's influence. Kwankwaso, the leader of the Kwankwasia movement, a political base he leads, has been accused of exerting undue influence over the governor's administration, which critics describe as a symbolic third term by proxy. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, says no fewer than 10,852 suspects were arrested between July and October 2024. He disclosed this during a strategic meeting with commissioners of police and other senior officers in Abuja. Again, Kikelomo Okeri completes the report.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, says the statistics indicate a substantial decrease in crime rate in the key areas, including significant strides in combating violence crimes such as banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, and cybercrime. He noted that from July to October this year, the Nigerian Police Force has rescued 369 kidnapped victims, recovered 416 firearms of various makes, retrieved 178 vehicles, and seized 3,672 rounds of ammunition of different caliber.
Foster a safe and secure environment for all Nigerians, thereby reinforcing the trust that is fundamental to our effectiveness. We must build on the progress we have made in addressing security concerns across our nation. Over the past few months, the force has significantly enhanced the safety and security of the country.
Speaking on the forthcoming off-cycle election in Ondo State, the police chief urged the senior officers to replicate and build upon the successes recorded in Edo State election. He further stated that patrols will be increased and other measures will be put in place to ensure the security of lives and properties throughout Ember Month.
In the country's internal security framework is vital. We must lead by example. With the upcoming off-cycle gubernatorial election in Ondo State, the local government council elections nationwide, and the challenges of the current Ember months, our vigilance and commitment to enhance security are paramount. Together, let's strive to foster a safe and secure environment for all Nigerians.
As the festive season approached, the Inspector General of Police further urged the senior officers to intensify efforts to secure all areas, particularly urban and semi-urban centers, major highways, as well as to collaborate effectively with other security agencies and stakeholders to bolster security nationwide. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Away from security matters now, let's turn to health. The federal government has taken delivery of 1 million doses of the R21 Matrix M malaria vaccine donated by Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. The World Health Organization had in December 2023 added R21 Matrix M malaria vaccine to its list of pre-qualified vaccines. Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Muyi Aino, says the arrival of the malaria vaccine from Gavi is a testament to President Bola Tinubu's commitment to protecting the lives of Nigerians. The Controller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, says the service has intercepted 20 container loads of sophisticated arms and ammunition worth about 10 billion naira since 2018. The customs boss described the scale and sophistication of the illegal activities of the criminal gangs behind the importation as alarming. Adeniyi, while addressing the media on the achievements of the Federal Operations Unit, Zone A of the service, disclosed that since 2018, customs have intercepted 20 significant shipments of illicit arms comprising of 10,498 pieces of various arms and 114,929 pieces of ammunition, with an estimated duty paid value of 9.58 billion naira. Quite a lot of arms there, no doubt. Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Abubakar, says the Nigerian Air Force will take delivery of 50 brand new aircraft between December this year and 2026. Air Marshal Abubakar said these are the second biannual meeting with branch chiefs and air officers commanding in Abuja, where he stated that the Nigerian Air Force had successfully inducted 12 aircraft into its inventory over the past year. He noted that it was a remarkable achievement that the Nigerian Air Force had not witnessed in a very long time. The senator representing Kano South, Sumaila Kawu, has advocated that elective and appointed political office holders be subjected to drug tests before assuming office. Contributing to a debate on the floor of the Senate in Abuja, Senator Kawu alleged that political leaders buy drugs for their supporters during elections. Queen Agaba tells us more.
Senator representing Kano South, Sumaila Kawu, alleged that most security operatives are drug peddlers. Senator Kawu added that the Hydra-headed problem of drug trafficking and consumption has eaten deep into the fabric of the society.
I am happy if all of us can swear with the Holy Quran that they are not in any way in support of drug abusers or intoxicating youth in their constituency to take drugs for their political. And Mr. President, we need, whether we are allowed in this bill to continue to have an agency or we are strengthening LDE, we need to create a situation where before contesting election or before taking appointment at whatever in government level, you must go for drugs test.
Senator Rufai Sani, representing Kano Central, made declaration in a debate on a bill to establish a National Institute for Drug Awareness and Rehabilitation to coordinate and promote awareness, prevent substance abuse, and facilitate the rehabilitation of drug users.
Is to raise public awareness about the dangers of drug abuse and illicit drugs, drug trafficking. Conduct research and collect data to develop effective strategies for drug abuse prevention and rehabilitation.
In their contributions, Senators Sarah K. Dixon and Adams Oshomole strongly opposed the establishment of a new agency to tackle the problem of drug abuse, especially with the existence of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. While Senator Dixon alluded that drug consumption has fueled crimes and criminality in Nigeria, Oshomole says it is important to strengthen the act establishing the NDLEA to deal with the problems raised by their colleagues.
I agree we must deal decisively with drug-related issues, but I am not convinced that we need to establish yet another agencies that will be competing with the NDLEA. Thank you, Mr. President.
After a heated debate, the bill scaled second reading after a voice vote coordinated by the Deputy President of the Senate, Jibrin Barao, and referred it to the Committee on Drugs and Narcotics to report back in 4 weeks.
To establish the National Institute for Drug Awareness and Rehabilitation to coordinate efforts in promoting drug awareness, preventing substance abuse, and facilitating rehabilitation of drug users, and for related matters, 2024 second reading taken.
However, several of the speakers admitted that drug abuse has become a serious concern across Nigeria that requires very urgent measures by all stakeholders. For Global Television, Queen Agaba reporting.
Thank you, Queen. You're watching the News Prime on Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. When the news returns, Flying Eagles running off preparation in Lomé for their participation in the 2024 WAFU Zone B Under-20 Championship. We'll have those details and more for you after the short break. Do stay with us, everyone. This is Global Television bringing you a live broadcast of the AM News. Thank you everyone for staying with us. Now let's turn to business for you. The House of Representatives has appealed to the federal government to urgently transmit their medium-term expenditure framework to the National Assembly to avail lawmakers ample time to work on the 2025 appropriation bill. This is as the lawmakers, drawn across party affiliations, expressed displeasure at the practice of delayed presentation of annual budget proposals to the Parliament, leaving the lawmakers with little time to do a good job. The resolution of the House followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved by Clement Jimbo. President of the World Bank, Ajay Banga, has unveiled the new simplified corporate scorecard to measure its progress ahead of a gathering of global financial leaders in Washington next week. The bank's new yardstick of accountability has reduced the number of indicators from around 150 to just 22, adding that simplified set of indicators should make it easier to evaluate progress. Ahead of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund's semi-annual gathering of senior financial policymakers in Washington next week, Banga also took stock of the reforms the development lender has made to become bigger and better since he took office in June of last year. On the foreign scene now, Niger's military authorities have banned rice, cereal and other food exports to all countries except fellow junta-led Burkina Faso and Mali to protect local supply. Junta Chief Abdurrahmani Tiani took the measure to protect the supply of the internal markets and make the goods of mass consumption accessible. These prohibitions do not apply to exports to Mali and Burkina Faso, Niger's allied neighbors, which are also ruled by military leaders who took part in coups. The Israel Defense Forces have confirmed that they hit Nabatea in southern Lebanon. 5 people were killed by airstrikes, including the city mayor. The targets include terrorist infrastructure sites, Hezbollah command centers, and weapons storage facilities, which were embedded by Hezbollah adjacent to civilian infrastructure, exploiting the civilian population as a human shield. Children as young as 10 will soon be able to be jailed once again in Australia's Northern Territory, after the government there lowered the age of criminal responsibility. Australian states and territories have been under pressure to raise their age of criminal responsibility from 10 to 14, in line with other developed countries and the United Nations advice. And now some excitement from sports. However, not less exciting news is that Kylian Mbappe has reportedly been linked to a rape investigation in Sweden and will serve any explanations for the Swedish justice system if necessary. That's according to his lawyer. His lawyer strongly believes and condemns media allegations suggesting that Kylian Mbappe had commented on the events of his trip to Stockholm. The France and Real Madrid striker had consensual sex with a young woman during the trip last week. The newly elected president of the African Table Tennis Federation, ATTF, Wahid Oshodi, has expressed his intention to elevate the game of table tennis on the continent. Oshodi, who was unanimously elected as the 6th president of the continental sports body to succeed Egypt's Khalid El-Sali, called on the private sector to support table tennis similar to sports. And that's the much we have for you on the AM News here on Global Television, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Just a quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, Star Times 276, and free to air on Nigecomsat. We encourage you to follow us across all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles as you now see on your screen. I'm Wiyag Mofwegwe, thanking you so specially for watching. The rest of Global Morning now continues. Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
We appreciate you staying with us on Global Morning this Friday, everyone. In the last couple of years, some people say, well, for several years, we continue to have incidences of tanker explosion. Tankers from one end of the country to the other fall sideways. As is always the case, citizens rush there, people in those communities run there with scoops and what have you, just to see how many they can salvage for themselves from these kind of very ugly incidents. And we've seen lives lost while at it. Of course, some persons had thought after the JSA fire incidents and one that we had somewhere on the fringes of Ogun State some years ago, would have learned our lessons, but that sadly hasn't been quite the case. The most recent one that is very concerning is the incident in Jigawa just about 48 hours ago that has left well over 150 persons dead today. That's according to official numbers coming out from the Nigerian Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. 2 days ago, we understood that at least 147 people had been buried in a mass burial. I mean, these are not stories that are very pleasant to hear, but then it is what it is. That's the conversation we want to have this morning from a different angle altogether. We'll take a short break and we'll be back shortly. All right, from this point, let's look at the angle of how we can ensure that there are better safety measures put in place with improved transportation protocol chain across the country, regardless of distance, because we can't continue to behave or carry on in 2024 the way we did in 1994. I mean, these are two ends that are 30 years apart, and when we do that, apparently we'll be able to save lives and also save costs, as it were. We're joined by a development lawyer, someone who is very passionate about these conversations and how we can mitigate the adverse impact we've seen on account of these very archaic practice. Eze Oyekbere joins us live via Zoom from Abuja. Eze, would like to say a big thank you to you this Friday morning for jumping on this conversation at a very short notice. My colleague Ramsey Agbo and I will be walking you through this conversation. I'm going to start out quickly by asking, first of all, how is it possible that in 2024, Nigeria is still discussing across media platforms the issue of fuel tanker explosion and how that scores of lives are lost as a result, and it appears that the authorities either not doing anything at all or not doing enough to ensure improved kind of system?
Well, let me start by saying that what happened was tragic. It was avoidable, and it is something that we wish and pray never happens again in this in Nigeria. The situation is clear. What happened is a failure of the transport policy, especially in the area of petroleum resources. We do not expect that in 2024, we will be using tankers to ferry petroleum products across the length and breadth of Nigeria to far-flung parts of Nigeria. First of all, it is risky to lives and property, as you have seen happened in the Jigawa instance. Secondly, it is time-consuming. And thirdly, it is extremely expensive to be using tankers to be ferrying petroleum products across the country. There are so many alternative ways that could have been used to achieve this at a much cheaper and less risky, as a much cheaper and less risky enterprise. One, Nigeria should have continued the process of laying pipelines across the Federation to ferry petroleum products, gas, and other liquid products across the length and breadth of the country. Yes, we were told that people were busting the pipelines, but modern day pipelining is not about the old pipelines laid in the 50s and 60s. These modern day pipelines are connected to computerized internet systems, which will show you real lifetime where a pipe is being vandalized or busted, so that the authorities can intervene immediately to chase away those criminals and to fix those pipes so that it continues serving its function. So that is one way through which these products can be transported seamlessly and at a much cheaper cost across the Federation. The second one is the issue of railways. You remember, since the Jonathan days, Buhari days, there have been this trumpet, especially in Buhari's time, about, oh, we built 1,001 modern railways. You don't need just one small tanker, which is 33,000 or so liters. Or you can have modern rail lines that are equipped with tankers that can carry millions of liters of petroleum products at the same time. So they can drive across the length and breadth of the Federation if and only if we had a proper rail transit system. So even the issue of using motor tankers will have been for very short distances and journeys where maybe there is a gap either in pipelines or in the railway system. So what we are still doing is archaic, is outdated, and is not done in any modern society. And to the idea that each time there is a tanker falling, fuel is spraying or gushing out, and people, hundreds of people are carrying jerry cans, buckets, it shows you the level and depth and severity of poverty. You know, petrol at 1,000 naira or thereabout per liter is not like gold, it's not like diamond. So the poor people who did not understand that they were almost going to roast themselves all swooned on it. And this is the unfortunate result. Although in the past we've had similar experiences where people have been burnt, but the poverty has accentuated with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policies in an increase in petroleum product prices, as well as his new management of the foreign exchange regime. So that is the unfortunate scenario, a combination of failure in transportation and petroleum resources policy and the depth, severity of hunger, of poverty, of misery, which the current administration has spread all over the country.
It's interesting, Mr. Onyekpere. We're going to talk about policy in a minute, by the way. But these issues have been here long. We've seen efforts being made to scale up our railway system. Of course, you are very familiar with the Chinese loans narrative, particularly in the days of Rotimi Chibuike Amechi as Minister of Transportation in this country. What are the specifics that countries, for example, across Europe, who have gotten it right with using railway to ferry petroleum products done differently that Nigeria can learn from as a model, for example?
Of course, that's why I talked to you about railways. You recall the Buhari, Rotimi Amechi's main instrument is a minister reporting to Muhammadu Buhari. Muhammadu Buhari took several loans claiming to be building railways. Can you please tell me the railways he built with the money? The Lagos-Ibadan railway line was started by Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and they had gone to a great extent before they left. The Abuja-Kaduna rail line was virtually completed. It was only that Goodluck was delaying its commissioning, and they came and commissioned it. They did not build a single rail line in the whole of the South-South and Southeast. And where else did they build a rail line? We heard they wanted to build one from Katsina to, is it Niger Republic? Where are the rail lines? What did they do with the money? So you're even sounding like you are going to give credit to an administration that borrowed money and mismanaged it. I stand firmly to say that the Buhari administration borrowed money and mismanaged it. Otherwise, they should account for the process of all the money they borrowed from the Chinese. Where are the rail lines? They've not done any. And I've said it already. There's no need to look to Europe or to anywhere. It's commonsensical. Build rail lines. Instead of putting the coaches, you just have the head of the train. Instead of the locomotives, instead of putting the coaches that carry human beings, you can put coaches that are like tankers that ferry liquids, petroleum products. You can also put coaches that are like trailers that you can use to transport animals, cattle, sheep, and carry luggage, okay, across the length and breadth of the Federation, so that even transporting goods that you cleared in the wharves in Port Harcourt or in Lagos or in Warri becomes cheaper by the time they get to other parts of the country, because you have an effective rail service. So there is no rail service. There is none. Like I've told you, the Buhari administration mismanaged the rail system in Nigeria. And I've also talked about pipelines. We used to have pipelines, or we still have them. But the problem that I'm talking about is that those pipelines are usually vandalized, that people are usually stealing petroleum products from them. But it's not rocket science. I remember before the Jonathan administration left, they have budgeted money and withdrawn the money in the budget for real-time online monitoring of the pipelines, both for petroleum and for gas. So if they claimed, as the permanent secretary then for petroleum resources said, they at some point in time, when he was asked about how they managed the money, said it was about 98% completed. They were waiting for commissioning. So where is the process of the investment that they made during the budget in that era? So it is clearly a failure of governance. It's clearly some level of insensitivity on the part of those, and of course, mismanagement and abuse of resources. When budgeted, they don't deploy the money, they steal the money, and then tell Nigerian stories. Simple.
For those responses. Now, we've talked about the area. You were able to give us some instances and identify the lapses on the area of government. And now let's look at the area of the people now. This is not the first time it's happening. We know that the government have their own failure, as it were. But right now, what would you have to say about the people? You know, these things happen. We all can see the repercussion of this recent incident. Now, as it is, what do you think can be done to sensitize the people against such occurrences, so that at least we can curtail future occurrences?
That is the work and the role of the Ministry of Information at the federal and state level, National Orientation Agency, the media. But it is going to be difficult to be preaching and sensitizing a very hungry man or woman or child who sees an opportunity to scoop a bucket or a 50-liter jerrycan and finds himself with the equivalent of 40,000, 50,000 which is more than the current national minimum wage. I mean the minimum wage that are still being paid now. I'm not talking of the 70,000, which is still a promise. It's going to be difficult to sensitize people to keep away. I'm not saying what they're doing is right. I'm not saying they should have roasted themselves. But I'm telling you the practical implications of hungry, wretched, and poor people who see an opportunity to make some quick bucks. So the best way to stop this, apart from all these pipelines, railways we are talking about, is also to improve the standards and conditions of living of the common people, so that these things will no longer attract them. I'm imagining myself today, I see a tanker falling and petrol gushing. I mean, the first thing I will do is to run for safety. Run as far as possible. Or if there is anything I consider precious, I run away with it and leave the rest. So what are we discussing? These people may not have heard of what has happened in other parts of the Federation. Even if they have heard, they may think it will not happen in this instance. So yes, there's a role for government agencies. There's also a role for the people to help themselves. But most of the times, people who are very poor and wretched and looking for their next meal find the temptation in matters like this very, very overwhelming.
All right. What I really want to do is just to balance the whole question. We've talked about the federal government, where their lapses are. We've also talked about the fact that the people are hungry, and there is no way you can stop a hungry man from jumping on something they look at as an opportunity. Now, let's look at the tanker owners. We know the roads are bad. The rails are not available yet for this fuel, this product to be transported via these rail lines. But now, the issue of transporting, because I've heard where they said sometimes these things happen and the owners of this truck don't even care. Apart from just fuel, we've had situations where trucks fail brake and run into the people, and a lot of people lost their lives. Now, the tanker owners, what do you think can be done, all right, to curtail this? Because there is some form of carelessness, all right, from the area. Sometimes there are some mechanical faults that you can't actually rule out completely. But then the nonchalant attitude of some drivers and tanker owners is becoming something else that is resulting to these incidences in some cases. What's your thought about that?
Well, let me start by saying that accidents do happen. Tanker owners or vehicle owners under the law are under obligation to make sure they put them in good repair and that they're roadworthy in terms of being used on the roads without causing any harm to other road users or even the person who is driving it. That's number one. Number two, we have a Federal Road Safety Corps, and of course in some states they have the equivalent like LASMA in Lagos, and we have the VIO. It is their duty to make sure that these vehicles are roadworthy. But most important of all, it is also the duty of the Ministry of Works, the federal government, the state government, depending on what kind of trunk of road that particular road on which the accident happened is, to ensure that the roads are vehicle worthy. Motor owner, driver, ensure your vehicles are roadworthy. Government, ensure that the roads are vehicle worthy. Okay? So this is the issue. It comes from both sides. Sometimes too, it may not even be about the roads. It may not be about the state of the vehicle, you blame the vehicle owner. It could be the carelessness or recklessness or perverse and gross negligence of the driver. You see people driving sometimes and falling asleep. So they don't negotiate the steering wheels appropriately at the corners where they should, and the vehicle gets overturned. So a lot could have happened. And of course, the road safety and vehicles need to be sure too that these vehicles are insured, so that in situations like this, even though insurance will not save anybody from dying, there could be some form of relief to the survivors, to those who are their dependents in instances like this. So there is enough land to go around. The drivers, vehicle owners, Federal Road Safety, VIO, Ministry of Work that should repair the roads and all whatnot. But I mean, blame games will not bring back anybody. Let everybody do his own side of the work, and then things will move on well.
All right, Mr. Onyekwere, let's talk about the policy of President Bola Tinubu, because you made an allusion to it in passing just a while ago. The president has consistently said that he has started a series of reforms that will turn Nigeria around for good, ultimately. Because we can't, as it were, extricate these incidents in Jigawa State from issues around poverty as well. Now, speaking of poverty, the World Bank is now saying that as of today, we have at least 137 million Nigerians who are living in multi-dimensional poverty or some form of extreme poverty. However, it says that the federal government must, by all means, sustain this range of reforms that it has started. Doing otherwise will mean that Nigeria will be in a place far worse than where it currently is. Would you kindly share your thoughts on this front?
I think it's an insult on Nigerians for one young man who maybe is poorly schooled from wherever he's coming from, calling himself a World Bank expert with little or no knowledge about what is happening in Nigeria, and doing the bidding of his masters to make sure that we are impoverished and we suffer. Take a look at these statistics. Nigeria was #1 in gross domestic product in Africa, with a GDP in excess of $550 billion. Today, we are behind South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, and we've gone down to about $252 billion or thereabout as our GDP. And somebody is suggesting to you that even the 133 million you talked about, multidimensional poverty, was as at 2022, before these so-called measures were introduced that have sent more people into misery. If you are to repeat that study today, I can assure you the percentage will not be less than 200 million out of about 220 to 230 million Nigerians. So for somebody to suggest that what took Nigeria from #1 to #4 in Africa, took a GDP from 550 billion to 200 and something billion, should be sustained for 15 years, is planning economic and real genocide against Nigerians. So he's expecting that in 15 years, the Nigerian population, more than 50% will have died, and then maybe he can come from his country to come and inherit the place. With utmost respect, what he's talking, he can tell that to the Marines. What he's talking is irresponsible on his part and is senseless and should not be encouraged. I'm not saying you don't do reforms, but reform should come as a total package. You don't remove fuel subsidy. What are you doing with the savings from fuel subsidy? When the much maligned Abacha removed a little of the fuel subsidy in his days, he set up the PTF, which was run by Muhammadu Buhari. At least there were a few things they did, even though they did it on a sectional basis. When the much maligned President Jonathan removed fuel subsidy, he set up Shopee. We saw buses which conveyed people more cheaply than the other buses. We saw interventions in the midwives programs and maternal and child health to save more mothers from dying from childbirth and to provide better facilities and immunization for children. What have we seen with the Tinubu administration? So anybody who is supporting this level of insensitivity, this level of economic wickedness, is not a friend of Nigerians. And I don't need to be told about any World Bank. The young man or woman who did this needs to go back to school. He's improperly schooled, and what he's doing is insulting. And I don't think I need to engage with such a fellow. It's shallowness in the intellect.
In any case, what is happening now is that the Minister of Finance, who of course doubles as coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, is also toeing that path. Many people now say that whatever the World Bank is telling Nigeria now is not new, because Nigeria as a country is still strong to the apron strings of the multilateral institutions, whether it is World Bank today or the IMF tomorrow. What must we do to, as it were, divorce ourselves from some of these influences? Because this was one of the points that Senator Adams Oshomole from Edo North had also made to Dr. Olayemi Cardoso on the day he was being screened to become the CBN governor. Because if we moved all the way from $550 billion GDP to less than half of that in the last couple of years, it simply means that we're in a bad place. Maybe some people say between the rock and the hard place and what have you. But how do we move beyond this point, regardless of whatever policy initiatives are being pursued by this present government?
My worry with the Tinubu administration and the World Bank cohorts is that they don't understand that reform is a total package. When you were increasing the price of removing subsidies, so to say, in petroleum products, did you not remember that you needed to stop industrial scale oil theft, where 400,000 to 500,000 barrels of crude are stolen on a daily basis? Did the World Bank tell Tinubu and his co that if they bring that into account for sharing at the Federation account, that the heavens will fall? Did the World Bank also tell Tinubu and his cohorts not to go after those who have stolen Nigeria dry from the subsidy regime? Did the World Bank not tell Nigeria or Tinubu and co not to introduce policies that will make life more meaningful from the savings they got from fuel subsidy removal? Who said we could not have built buses locally and distributed to states and local governments to introduce public transportation that will be cheaper than the others? Even the CNG initiative, why is it still on paper up till today? And even now it's becoming more scary because across the Federation, the CNG cylinders are exploding. And so who wants to risk his life with that kind of stuff? So common sense is lacking. It's not for any young boy to come into Nigeria and say he's from the World Bank. I won't accept that. He doesn't feel the pain. He doesn't feel the misery. He doesn't feel the pain of somebody who has a retirement savings account, who saved at 200 to the dollar, and today is 1,600. So his money has been reduced by over 1,000%. And somebody is saying what doesn't make sense. If Wale Edu and CBN governor, whoever they call themselves, think they can continue punishing Nigerians, a day of reckoning is coming. Yes, Nigerians are docile, but sooner than later, Nigerians are going to fight back, because if they don't fight back, they will start dying one by one. It's arrogant and insulting of them to continue pushing this madness. It's madness down our throats. It doesn't make sense. It's insensitive. I dare them any day to fix a live television program. Let all the networks connect and let real Nigerians talk to them who have intellect and not shadow, not just claiming you know anything. Because the evidence of the knowledge you have in economics, the evidence of your Ivy college you went to Harvard or wherever you claim to you've been to, is how their policies impact on the livelihoods of Nigerians. Any other thing is nonsensical.
Okay, thank you. We actually know how you feel. But then, looking at the whole situation now, let's give it a holistic approach and looking at it from this perspective. This morning on one of the papers, Cardoso has said, well, there are certain things that previous administrations would have done, okay, to the economy, and it wasn't done. And while we were discussing, we and I were talking about the fact that a lot of people shift blames when it comes to carrying out their activities. But now, looking at the whole situation as it is right now, from your own perspective, what do you think, okay, it can be done to remedy the situation at this point in time? I know the situation was not like this before this administration came into office, and of course, he has said, well, the previous administration, we are supposed to do certain things and they didn't do it. What's your own thoughts?
He campaigned to remedy whatever he found on ground. Instead of remedying it, you went to a doctor with a toothache. The doctor did not cure your toothache. He gave you medicines that gave you a running tummy, blurred your vision, and weakened you with general debility. So what is he talking about what previous governments had done? Which are those governments? It's not Buhari that ruled for 8 years, who he brought to power, and who he found that all his policies were good and he will continue. What is this issue of blame game? A lazy workman simply blames the tools he met on ground to say, A should have done this, B should. What have you done since you met A and B did not do what they were supposed to do? What have you done to remedy the scenario? So all these things don't make sense. Clearly, if you ask me what needs to be done, let me start, there's so much that can be done. Tinubu does not need 40-something ministers, which he has. Number one. Tinubu never needed a brand new aircraft, which he bought. Those of them in the National Assembly never needed 170 million naira cars. That's number one. Tinubu today can stop massive industrial scale oil theft and begin to account fully for all our oil that is drilled today. Tinubu today can instruct his Attorney General to recover all stolen funds, stolen through oil subsidies, stolen through all means that they've been doing. Tinubu today can stop the inflation of contracts like the ones they did on that Lagos-Calabar road, which didn't go through due process. So a lot can be done to save the naira. What is he doing to increase our exports? Okay? Whether it's processing of agricultural products or value addition. What is he doing to stop companies from folding up, manufacturing companies? These are the issues and challenges. By the time you come to grips with this thing, improve the ease of doing business, grant more access to foreign exchange. Okay? Didn't you see that they almost frustrated Dangote before Nigerians and everybody shouting? Meanwhile, we were spending 30% of our forex importing refined petroleum products. So a lot can be done if the president is serious and his team is serious. You don't devalue your currency so much, leave it to market forces at a time you have nothing to export. Even if you were to do it, it has to be gradual. And as your exports increase so that you have the opportunity of any more foreign currency, then you can float. But not the way we are doing things, as if to say we do not have well-trained and sensible Nigerians. A lot can be done. You can increase exports, and you can even start by agriculture. Put in more efforts, not just voting money and mismanaging the money without results. By the time they want to do this, whether it's in agriculture or in the petroleum sector, where there are more refineries are coming up, encourage them so that they can even export and earn foreign exchange for Nigeria. And then the money our brothers and sisters in Europe and America and Asia are sending back. Why are we not getting the dollars and the pounds and the foreign currency especially? You allow international money travel or agents to simply get the money and ship in the naira. Do you know what we imagine since we say we gain up to $20 billion every year from repatriation from our brothers and sisters here?
Foreign remittances.
Yeah, foreign remittances. If the 20 billion comes in as dollars or pounds or euro or yen into Nigeria, do you know that it will help to stabilize the naira? Because that will be more than what we are getting from the sale of crude oil and gas. So
Mr. Incidentally, time will fail us to push this narrative beyond these points. Apparently, these are developing stories, and sad as they are, Nigeria is not out of the woods just yet. That much is very evident. However, my colleague and I would say a big thank you to you this morning for taking out time to share these valuable thoughts with us on Global Morning.
My pleasure.
Well, Ramsey, you see, this is one of the issues. I mean, at some point, you don't want to have this conversation because it's just going to get sort of emotional at some points. Because while we're talking numbers and statistics, we're actually talking about human lives. We're talking about households. You know, these are real human beings, not just pieces of statistics or what have you. But one of the things that did stick out for me while Barrister Onyekpere was talking is the fact that government must bring humanity and human face to whatever policy you're driving. Till tomorrow, you go to even the global west, whether it's the US or Canada or somewhere across Europe, you still find several essentials being subsidized. In some countries, things as basic as groceries are subsidized. So when you say fuel subsidy is gone, yes, it is one thing. We hear you loud and clear. But like Mr. Onyekpere also highlighted, what exactly did you put in place to cushion the adverse impact that was naturally going to have on citizens? Because that's the reason, obviously, he said, when you talk about fuel subsidy, I mean, being removed, it has to be a total package. The same approach should be adopted when you're driving a set of policies.
Well, I think Mr. Onyekpere have actually spoken extensively, and he had to pour out his heart.
Right.
And that's to tell you of how passionate Nigerians are concerning everything happening in the country right now. If you bring up another person, the person will give his own perspective of the whole story. But as it is right now, the situation needs an urgent attention. We are not saying that some of these policies are bad. That's not what the people are saying. But for you to look at a policy that is not favoring the people, and you come up to say this policy needs to be sustained for the next 10 to 15 years, then someone may be thinking, is there something this person is benefiting from this unfavorable policy as it were? You know, these are questions that people will be asking. Is there a personal interest? Is there something this person is aiming at? You know, all these things will be brought on board so that at least, if being dissected very well, you will get to know that some of these things at the end of the day may not really end the way it seems right now. But then, I think we can't finish talking about this right now. And so much that it's a developing story. We'll still keep in touch, keep talking about it, and have experts bring to the table their perspective of the whole thing.
Okay, so that will take a break, everyone. We have a second conversation. This time we turn to politics. Ondo is on the horizon now because of the election that's going to gubernatorial election scheduled to take place in Ondo State on the 16th of November. Well, Edo State is behind us now. In fact, in the case of Edo, we're now talking handover, which is going to be on the 12th of November, even though we know the real handover is on the 11th, which is the day prior. But we're moved on from there now to focus on Ondo State to look at what exactly are the issues. Is INEC prepared, as we always ask? Are the candidates on same page with regards to the rules of engagement? INEC says all the candidates so far understand what the rules are. All right, so will politicians and their political parties, their supporters, and all of those people they have on the ground behave themselves in line with the law? There's the ground norm, the Constitution, but more particularly, there's the Electoral Act of 2022. All right, are we going to conduct ourselves based on these two very important legal documents? We'll talk about that on the program, but just to also mention that Global Television is already on the ground in Ondo State. We'll bring you the highlights from the electioneering period, that's the campaign, all the way into the election day proper, where we'll have correspondent on the ground to bring us live, real-time reports of developments in that western states of Nigeria. Let's take a quick break. When we return, our second conversation will be on the road.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen.
Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
All right, thank you, everyone. Time to begin to wind down with the second discussion on the program. This morning, we're joined via Zoom from Abuja, Nigeria's capital, by Goloye Benedict Olaleko. He's a public affairs analyst to help us find sense in the rhetorics around Ondo State's governorship election scheduled for 16th of November. Apparently, that's a month from today. So the question would be, for example, how much of preparation are we saying regarding these very important off-cycle election? But first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Goloye, for making the sacrifice to be with us on the program this morning.
You're welcome.
All right. So let me begin by asking, what exactly should we be taking away from what we saw with regards to Edo State governorship election, and now that we have effectively 3 weeks to the governorship election in Ondo State?
Well, the logistic bottlenecks must be adequately dealt with so that you are sure that materials are released promptly and voting can commence in the various voting areas on time. And of course, there must be adequate provision, especially for those in the riverine area, that is Ikale, Ilaje, for those with difficult terrains, so that timing will not be an issue for them to get materials. And of course, on Edo election, it was good that the results got on IREV quickly. So we would also expect that the same will happen for Ondo election.
All right,
and of course, for
the interesting. We're taking a break quickly, everyone. We'll back shortly with the rest of the program. Do stay with us. All right, thank you, Agoloye, for staying with us on the program. You just made a point a while ago, materials arriving on time, ensuring that all the loose ends are tied, and what have you. I don't know how you are going to score INEC with regards to the last few off-cycle governorship elections we have seen. For example, the other time, it was Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo, all of them bundled together, so to speak. Now it was Edo, more like a standalone exercise, pretty much the same case we are going to have with Ondo in about 3 weeks' time. Let's talk about how these off-cycle elections usually turn out for INEC, because when it's general election, we say, well, because there's going to be a whole lot of demand on the commission to conduct elections across the country, it's very understandable that there will be lapses. But for standalone off-cycle elections, we still see some of those elements that are not very pleasant or impressive in play. What would you expect to happen in all those states on the 16th of November in particular, as far as this exercise is concerned, from the standpoint of INEC?
Well, from INEC side, like we said, I look forward to see a perfect logistics. That's number one, because that is very crucial. Of course, because it's an off-cycle election, I'm sure that the security forces will be available to do their job and do their support. Like we said, we also expect that there will be an immediate transmission from the polling units, just like we have in Edo, where before 9 p.m. on the election day, you already have over 80% of the results on IREF. Because again, if the results are quickly posted, it gives some measure of confidence that even if there are errors, if there are manipulations thereafter, because those images are already there, you can always cross-check between what the polling agent, the party agents receive, what is on IREF, and the error that can occur at any other later stage of the election. Because for me, the real election happens at the polling unit. The real evidence is that result sheet, that Form C8A signed by the INEC official and all the party polling agents. That becomes like the primary source of evidence. So that needs to be available, that needs to be protected. Then generally, we would expect that the distance from Akure to the rest of the state is not so far. The farthest point in the north will be maybe about 100 kilometers away. And I think for the riverine area, by now, they should possibly be looking at getting support perhaps from the Navy or from the air wing of the Nigerian police to ensure that some air freight helicopter flight can be done if the need arises, or that they can use maybe the naval speedboats. But if they got their logistics right and the security is right, I think every other thing from the INEC end will be fine.
All right, great. I think that's a safe place to leave it with the, from the INEC angle to the conversation. But let's talk about the people, because you're going to have real human beings on the day, apparently coming out for this exercise. What should you expect from the people? In the case of Edo, for instance, people say, regardless of where you stand or where you're looking at the whole outcome from, partisan or otherwise, the good thing is that violence was not recorded. There was minimal incidents, as it were. No loss of life was recorded, and what have you. How do we also ensure on that level we have the same outcome in Ondo State?
Well, the security forces, like Edo, should be able to brace up to get their own deterrent positions placed. So if they are physically present, that reduces the possibility of anybody wanting to misbehave. Then, of course, for Ondo election, I don't think there should be any tension. Everybody in the election system at the moment on the ballots have been the same family. Whether it was Ajayi, that's the PDP candidate, or the APC candidate, they both have been together in APC at some point. They were possibly in ACN back in the days, in 2011, 2012. So a number of things shows that it's the same family. So we do not expect violence. We just expect that let INEC make the materials available, let the security personnel be on ground for people to see them. Once people see them, of course, the process will follow normalcy. And then it's November. We are expecting that rain will not disturb the people the way it has done in Edo. Then we expect that the parties will not blame INEC for voters' education. They should go out now and do their last-minute voters' education so that we don't have the report like Edo where some parties were blaming INEC for void votes. I don't think it is INEC alone that is responsible for voters' education. All the parties should do. If you also get on INEC website as we speak, I think there are indications, there are lists, at least for Ondo State, I've confirmed a few of the wards, right? I've confirmed a few of the wards. The list of uncollected permanent voters card are available with INEC. So politicians should be able to get that down and knock on the doors of people so that they can pick up their PVC over the next 1 week or thereabout that INEC has created a window. Because if the people do not have their cards, that means they cannot vote. So it is not the crowd at the campaign that matters for me. But in reality, it is the actual number of people that can vote. So I think that the ward leaders, the campaign team, look for the list of people who are here to collect their PVC, mobilize them to collect, at least for those who are still alive and are living residents in the state and can vote, let them collect their PVC. So if we have that, then there is a good turnout on the election day. Hopefully there will be no rain that will cause any disruption, and then the process should go seamless. And a leader, a clear winner, I'm sure will emerge in the election.
All right. Thank you so much, Agolaye Olaleko, for making our time to join us this morning. We hope to have you join us again on the election day proper. That's the 16th of November, so we can look at some of these issues real time while the exercise is ongoing in Akure and across the entire states of Ondo. We do hope you have a big weekend ahead of you.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
All right, you too. Everyone, that's where we leave it on the program this morning. Thank you for watching. Just a quick reminder that the views of our guests are their opinions across all of our programs. This is Global Television. At the top of the hour, we will be bringing you Talk Sports with Anthony Momodu.
Maybe they are using this